Alright, today we're getting back to work on the Gold truck and we are installing one of the more important parts of the build. Anytime you boost any engine, turbocharge, supercharge, or even nitrous, anything like that, you need to be able to keep track of things. So the way we're going to keep track of things is with some more gauges, and in this case, hey, throw me that box. Yep. Thank you. In this case, it's with an AEM wideband gauge. These things are awesome. I've used one on the Turbo Conquest I used to have. It worked perfectly, and it's one of the cheaper ones on the market. You can get it for between 160 and 200 bucks depending on where you go. I just went to eBay, typed in AEM wideband, it came up 160 bucks. Score. These things are sweet. And they're super simple to install. All you gotta do is just put in the oxygen sensor, wire it up, mount the gauge, you're good to go. And speaking of mounting, I did get something else. This is just a universal Sun Pro 2-pillar gauge mount. It's a universal one, so it's not going to be a direct fit, but I should be able to heat it up and bend it and kind of make it fit if this is what I decide to do. This is like an old stock sort of deal, so on Summit. Originally this was 32 bucks, but because it's getting like phased out or something like that, it was $4.99. So even if I don't use it, it's not like I'm out a whole bunch of money. I could cut it up and mount the actual pods somewhere else. I figured for $5 I might as well get it and see if I can make it work. If I don't, it's not too big a deal. I'm not sure if I actually do want to mount the gauges on the pillar or not, since the truck's kind of a sleeper. I mean, well, it looks like shit. I don't know if that is like the main thing for it to be a sleeper, but it looks like poop, and it'll be kind of quick. Right now I'm just gonna get the gauge like installed, and then we can reroute. We can always reroute the wiring to somewhere else later on. Like if we want to put it in the pillar, it's not too big a deal to just take it off and move it somewhere else. Speaking of wiring, let's take a look at everything that comes with the wideband. So this is the one I got. You can see the part number there if that's what you want to go with. This is everything that comes with it. You got the gauge itself. Here's a different bezel and face for it if you want to have a white face on it. Here's the oxygen sensor itself. I think this is a Bosch sensor, but I can't remember. Here's the wiring harness that plugs into the oxygen sensor. You got plenty of room. That's probably a good 7 feet, I would say, give or take. Just plugs in there, and then this end plugs into the back of the wideband right there. And then here's the power harness for it. And then you've got a big thick manual of instructions. This is your bunghole and some wire connectors. The 10 horsepower sticker, and looks like just a little instructional flyer. Now obviously to do this install you don't need a lift, but because I have access to one, I'm gonna do it. Really all you need are just like some ramps to drive the front of your car up onto. The only thing you have to do underneath is just hook up the oxygen sensor. All the rest you can do with the car on the floor. I'm pretty excited about it, see how far off my tuning is. This thing could be running pig ass rich. So let's get to work. Alright, since I know someone's going to ask, this exhaust is a Speed Engineering 3-inch stainless X-pipe exhaust. It was like 400 bucks. They make it for a bunch of different trucks, single cab short beds to crew cab long beds. I'm really happy with it. I think it's a fantastic exhaust for the money, and it makes this a whole lot easier because it has a port specifically for wideband O2 sensors and stuff like that. So all we got to do down here is just take this plug out, screw in the new oxygen sensor, and then feed the wiring up towards the firewall. And then we're good to go. We can drop the truck down and do everything else from up above. Actually, I was wrong. It's pretty close to 12 feet. Alright, that's all we had to do under here. All we had to do is just screw in the sensor. Got the wiring zip tied so it stays off the exhaust. The routing isn't ideal, but it's fine. So now we just have to lower the truck and start taking care of everything from up top. Alright, we got a hole poked in the grommet down there. We've got this stiffer wire fed through it already, and then we just have the wiring harness taped to it pretty good. We're just going to pull it through there. I was really close to just running it through the door jamb, but I started to feel guilty, so we're going to do it the right way. All I got to do now is just feed it through and then wire it up I think I am gonna have it up on the A-pillar for now. And then all I gotta do is just power and ground wires and then turn it on and see how it works. Now I got the A-pillar cover off the truck, trying to figure out the whole mounting situation. I didn't want to drill any holes in this until I for sure figured out if this would work. And I think it is going to work. What I did was I took this little butane torch, heated it up a little bit, bent this side in to meet the contour and then that side out. It still needs a lot of tweaking, but I think it's going to fit just fine. Like you can see, there's a gap there. There's a little bit of a gap here that I am going to take care of, but I think most of it will get pinched tight once it's screwed down there. And then all I'm going to have to do is just drill some holes for the wires and stuff to go through, because it's going to be the wideband here and then the boost gauge up here. So I'm going to have the wires for that, which is just basically 2 of these going down the pillar and then to the fuse box and stuff. That's not a big deal. Then there's going to be the wires and the line similar to this for the boost gauge that's going to go down through here. So there's going to be a little bit of a clump of stuff, but there's going to be plenty of room. So all I've got to do is just drill a hole here and a hole about in there for that, and then there's going to be plenty of room there to get everything through, so I'm not worried about that. And with there being 12 foot of this stuff, there's plenty of that. I'll pull some down and probably like zip tie it in a bundle like that under the dash so it's not clumped somewhere. And then from that, all I've got to do is just run the power wires from the gauge down to the fuse box and hook up some wires for that. That's no big deal at all. And then as far as like actually mounting the gauge in that pod's set up for 2-inch gauges, and this is a 2 1/16 inch gauge. So all I had to do was just file these holes out a little bit, and it's basically going to be a press fit in there. Like, let's see if I can, like that. I mean, that thing, it's not going to go anywhere, so I'm not even going to really worry about this strap. Legit, I'm not worried about that at all. So, and then all I've got to do is just hook up the wires, and after that we're good to go. So I'm going to get back to that. I'm thinking about using the silver bezel and the white face, since that'll kind of match the boost gauge that I've got, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I'm going to get back to installing it. It's basically just going to be like boring wiring from here on out, so I'm probably not going to show too much. All I got to do is just find a 12-volt source that turns on and off with the key, chassis ground. If you want, that white wire is like you can data log and stuff like that. Pretty straightforward. It's all in the instruction manual if you decide to get this, and there's plenty of information online on forums and stuff like that. So I'm not going to bore you too much with the little shitty details like that. So I'm just going to start hammering this together, and then I'll show you guys pretty much the finished product, I think. I think when it's in the truck it'll look fine. That's not bad at all. Maybe someday down the road I'll get the actual like pillar cover that has these integrated into it. For $5, I think that's definitely fine with me. So all that's left now is just the wiring. I think for now I'm just gonna do power and ground to actually see it work. I'll hook up the data log wire some other time. It's getting a little late right now. I like to get home before it starts to get dark out, so I'm gonna hook those 2 wires up and then we'll be able to actually see it work. And like I said, see how far off the fueling is. Alright guys, we got the gauge completely installed and wired up minus the data log wire. And I think it's sweet. I think I'm super happy with it. I think it's going to be awesome. We can turn the truck on now and see how far off my tune is. Alright, so right around 16 to 1. That's not horrendous, but it's definitely not ideal. So let's take the truck for a drive and see how it does there. Alright, so par throttle cruising, it's at about 14.8, 14.9, right around there. That I can live with, so let's make a pull and see where it's at then. I still have a lot of tuning left to do on this thing, but that's going to do it for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing, and we'll see you next time.